Welcome back to Ironsworn, Rime of the Frostmaiden. This is episode 7. So one of the conceits of this game is that I want to go through all the towns and all the adventures in the book. It may strain credulity a little bit how Karl is going about doing some of these things, or the sorts of ways that problems crop up for him. But that's all part of the meta discussion. Like in session 0, I said that's the premise that we're going to follow. You can think about this with your own players, that if you want to do totally open world game, that's fine. If you want to do like a mission based game, that's fine. But make sure that your players are on board with the game that you want to play. And if they seem like they're veering off, like in this game, if they wanted to, set up at the ramshackle and become innkeepers, it's okay to have an out of character conversation with them and say, hey, you guys, the game that I was hoping to play was to go around 10 towns and pursue all these problems that they're having. And if that's not the game that you want to play, that's fine. But then it's okay to say, okay, we're not going to play that game because that's not the game that I want to play. So it's just a little tip, hopefully, for those of you who are in gaming groups, that we're all trying to have fun, and different people's fun is different, and that's okay. So having that conversation and being clear, like, this is what this game is about, may help your players kind of go into the fiction, right? And not take it completely literally, like, oh, that's a ridiculous premise or anything like that. It might be like, okay, yeah, we'll roll with it. So that's what I'm hoping to do with all of these. I'm just rolling with it. Karl is going to get into trouble, and he's going to keep trying to find his sister, and he will eventually, but that'll probably create new challenges for him. So when we last saw Karl, he had routed the monsters from the gem mine, specifically killed this one horrible monstrosity, and saved the kobolds and got them out of the mine, introduced them into the town. The town was very appreciative. They did say that they wanted him to go to the East Side Inn, owned by Marta Peskrick, and just talk to her. He can stay there. Karl heads over to the East Side and knocks on the door. No answer, kind of wanders in. There's like a little lobby area, a little hallway with the rooms. He's kind of wandering around. He hears a voice off in the distance. This voice is very softly just singing, and he pursues the voice and sees this teenage girl who's just sort of sweeping one of the rooms and looks like she's just singing to herself.
I had of winters when she came, the lovely woman with no name, draped in a fur-lined cloak of red, to the icy lake she fled. The wind pursued her all the same, as sure as night she's dead.
So he sees this striking young woman singing this sad song. He makes some sort of noise, and she sort of pauses in her cleaning and looks up, and they have a little chat. He nods at her. He says, "Hey, my name's Karl. I just got done clearing the gem mine of the monsters, but I was looking for my sister. But anyways, the townsfolk said that I should come here and that I might be able to stay here for a little bit until I figure out what I need to do next." That was a very sad song that you were singing. Where did you hear that? And Marta kind of smiles and nods. She says, "Oh, well, it was a song I made up about a lady who came here to stay many years ago when my grandparents were here. She wore a red cloak and was scared of something. And my grandparents tried to comfort her, but the door blew in and a terrible wind came in, and it seemed like the wind was possessed and knocked about the room and was going to kill the woman. My grandparents stepped in and tried to lead her off and batter against the wind, and the woman left and ran into the night, and my grandparents tried to close the door and hold the wind in, but it knocked them out and then pursued her into the night, and fear that she met a dark end. But when she visited, she gave my parents a emblem of her appreciation for taking her in and comforting her. And Marta looks down at a ring that's on a necklace around her neck. Karl nods as well. It happened a long time ago. I'm sorry to hear it. Do you? I hope you have rooms available. Oh yes, of course. Please. Marta shows Karl to a room. He doesn't really have much stuff, but he's got his gear. He kind of sets it out, settles down. Marta's kind of standing in the door. Karl looks up, says, I wouldn't suppose you would happen to know. I'm actually here primarily looking for my sister Bridget and her best friend Tessa. They ran off from the woods around Lonelywood. Gosh, maybe 2 weeks ago now, and I've been looking for them lately. And I got some information that they may or maybe headed to Tourmaline. Have you spotted 2 girls at all? Marta, at the first mention of this, has a shock of recognition in her expression. Oh, yes, they actually happen to stay here. It was maybe 10 days ago, I would say, at this time, and I heard them whispering to themselves that they were planning on their next step, that they were going to Targos. Targos? Well, I should get her away right away. Marta kind of reaches out a hand. No, it's been too long. You look battered and weary. You should stay and rest. Karl nods. He is battered and weary, so he is going to hopefully sojourn here, maybe do some camping, some resupplying, whatever he needs to get himself up for the next step of the journey, because going on to Targos is he's never been to Targos. It's kind of the big city in his perspective, and he's not really sure what he's going to face there. So let's see if Karl can successfully do a sojourn here. He's did not do very well with this last time he tried to sojourn in Lonelywood, so he's got a +1 to this. And let's see if he can at least get something. Okay, weak hit. That's fine. That's good enough. He gets 2 out of 3, so he can get his health up a little bit, get his spirit up, get a little bit rested. I think he's doing pretty well with that, actually. I think, should he try to sojourn a little bit longer and really get strong for the road? I think he's feeling okay. I think he's going to go ahead and head out. It's not too far to Targos. It's only a 4-hour hike down a reasonably well-traveled road, so he's not going to have to undertake a journey or anything dangerous like that. And hopefully once he gets to Targos, he'll be able to collect some more rumors and figure out where Bridget is. So he thanks Marta after a few days of resting, gathers his measly gear, slings his bow, gets his axe settled, and heads off down the road towards Targos. Now, Targos is a pretty large town. Like I said, he has not visited Targos before. I think when he gets there, he sees it's a walled city. He hasn't seen a walled city before. This is quite amazing to him. And, he certainly heard about Targos. It's mostly a fishing town, even more so than a lot of the other towns around 10 towns. So he's going to go ahead and try to talk to some people. Karl arrives in Targos, heads through the wall without incident, asks where he might be able to talk to folks and collect some information. Folks minding the wall suggest that he can go to the Three Flags Sailing, which is one of the busiest taverns in town. Karl heads over to the Three Flags Sailing, sits down, chats with folks, and asks about his sister, and doesn't really get anything. He stays there for, I'd say, a full afternoon, walking up to folks saying, like, excuse me, sir, would you mind if I bothered you? I have some questions. And, ask them if they've seen her. I don't know what people think about him asking these questions, but what he does get instead is he gets some information that around the town of Bremen, which is just a short way from Targos, that there is a creature in the lake that seems to be intentionally targeting fishermen from Bremen. Now, this sounds suspiciously like a hyper-intelligent animal, which the white moose that Karl previously encountered and fought and ultimately killed also was. There was some evidence that the white moose was up to something. Now, we haven't talked about this yet, but the white moose had kidnapped Half. It hadn't killed him. What was the white moose going to do with Half? Karl doesn't know, but what I think is happening is that Rivison, the Frost Druid, and her accomplices are finally elevating to human sacrifice for Arl, the Frostmaiden. So I think that Half was going to be one of their first human sacrifices that they were going to make. So what Karl knows is that the White Muse seemed hyper intelligent and that there may be some connection there. It's the only thread he's got. So he's going to not spend too much time in Targos and head out over the trail to Bremen. Now, the trail to Bremen has been obscured by snow lately, so this is not going to be a super easy. So we are going to undertake a journey for this leg of the trip. So he does not have a bond with Targos to help him. He does have his Wayfinder, which will give him a bonus. So let's see how we do. Strong hit. Great. I'm not going to do this as a series of waypoints. I'm just going to do a single. It's only 2-hour trek, but mostly, was there anything that happened to him on the way? And nope, he arrives in Bremen without incident. Karl arrives in Bremen, which is an awfully sleepy little town at the mouth of a river. The river frozen over, obviously, walks across without problem, looks around, probably doesn't see anyone out and about. So I think he's here for a lake monster. That's what the people in Dargo said. So he's just going to head down to the docks and see what there is to see. As he gets down to the docks, a doughty dwarf stomps up to him. The lake around the creaky docks is frozen, forcing fishers to pull their rowboats up onto the ice. Standing between a pair of boats is a stout humanoid in cold weather clothing. A gray hood hides most of his face, but you can make out a wide nose and long, frosty beard. The stout figure stamps their feet, spots you, and waves you over. Good, you're here. Get to it, ingrates. Those fish ain't gonna catch themselves. I'm sorry, what are you talking about? He kind of looks at the dwarf. He looks over. There are a couple of rowboats next to the dwarf. One of them has what looks like a bite taken out of it. Certainly some damage has been done to it, and it could be a bite mark. You know what? Maybe this is the lake monster. Maybe this is actually not a bad thing. So he's going to go and chat with this dwarf. Karl's going to go up and say, what happened to the rowboat? I heard there's a lake monster. Did the lake monster take a bite out of it? The dwarf shakes his head gruffly. Don't you see bloody ice everywhere? Last crew were apparently born with pits for eyes because they sailed right into a damn ice floe. I ain't getting around to repairing the gunwale yet, but she floats just fine. Well, but is there a lake monster? The dwarf kind of huffs and stomps off and says, get to work. Karl looks at the rowboat and like, well, I mean, there's one rowboat that's relatively more stable. There's only one of him, so he's just going to take a rowboat. It looks like there's some fishing gear in here as well. Maybe he's supposed to do some fishing. I mean, he grew up in Lonelywood, even though he's a forester. Obviously, in 10 towns, everyone probably does some fishing. So I think Karl, not a competent fisher, but has done it a non-zero number of times. So he grabs the rowboat and starts hauling it across the ice. As he does so, you hear footsteps approaching across the creaky deck. Another figure covered head to toe in cold weather gear has joined you. The figure wags a gloved finger at the frosty bearded dwarf. You have now honneur, Berliabor, the newcomer yells, pulling down a woolen muffler to reveal a pale half-elven face. You're sending these innocent people to their deaths. And for what? Off you fish? Pay no mind to this rambling fool, says Grinsk. Did you tell them about their monster? Retorts the half-elf. Ooh, good. Okay, so this half-elf knows about the monster maybe, and is at least willing to talk about it. This is good for Karl. Karl kind of turns to the half-elf and nods at him, says, you know about the monster? I'd love to hear more. I'm getting the feeling that Grinsk does not like me very much, or anyone who steps between him and the gold swimming in this lake. I'm telling. I'm studying the local animal life here in Icewind Dale. I just couldn't stay silent and watch another crew fall victim to the monster of the lake. Tally and Karl kind of chit-chat a little bit more, and it comes evident that Tally is interested in collecting information about the animals around Icewind Dale. So he's like an amateur biologist, it seems like. And Karl's talking to Tally and discovers that they are interested in getting any notes about the lake monster. Karl's going to go out and wants to check out this lake monster. Maybe it's connected in some way to the White Moose and to what happened to Half, and maybe what happened to his sister. He doesn't know, but this is the only lead he's got. Tally hands Karl a notebook. I cannot offer you much money, but if you would write any information down about the nature of this monster, I would be much appreciated. Karl nods, holds on to his iron-headed axe, and says, I swear I will write down what I can about this creature. And he is going to swear an iron vow. Weak hit. All right, that could be better, could be worse. You're determined, but your quest has more questions than answers. Take +1 momentum. I'll take it. I think he doesn't know really clearly what he's up to here. So I think he's just going to drag the rowboat out and see what's going on out on the lake, see if he can encounter this monster. And maybe he's thinking he could encourage it to take him to someone or something, get him some an understanding. Again, in my interpretation of Rime of the Frostmaiden, the awakened creatures don't talk, but they're very intelligent. So I think he's actually going to do a little bit of secure an advantage here. I think he's going to get some fish that he might be able to feed this lake monster, because that sounds like a way to get on its good side. So he's going to talk. No, so he's okay. So he's going to get some fish, but he's got fishing gear. So he's just going to go out and do some fishing out on the lake. So this is going to be secure an advantage. I'm going to call this with edge, as it requires dexterity, et cetera, and a miss. I'm trying to secure an advantage here. Why would you give me a miss? You fail or your assumptions betray you. A new danger or foe is revealed. Well, that's just fine. Not surprising. He's out there fishing, trying to do his best. Now, there are a number of encounters that you can have on the lake as you're trying to encounter this lake monster. So he's trying to secure an advantage by fishing here, and a large knucklehead trout actually leaps out of the water, smacks him in the face with its tail, and plunges back. The rowboat rocks. This is going to be a face danger with edge to try to not get knocked out of the rowboat, because that would be bad. Oh my god. And on a 0 and 9, no way to burn momentum on this. Yeah, he fully falls out of the rowboat, splashes into the water, manages to just toss his fishing line back in, but he gets completely drenched. I think that he's going to lose some supply here. Some of his gear goes down to the bottom of the lake. He manages to haul himself out of the water. He is shivering and cold. Collect info on lake monster. And I think I'm just going to call this a troublesome quest. I don't think that it's going to be particularly challenging, just to go out and make some notes. I guess the main thing is just trying to encounter the thing. He got dunked, trying to secure an advantage, getting some fish caught here. He's now wet. That's going to be a problem for him eventually. He's going to definitely have some hypothermia trouble. I think that he's going to stay out on the lake for now. I think he's got to be persistent. So he's just going to sail around, and I think he's going to try to secure an advantage again. I think he's got to try to get some fish here. You know what? Fuck the fish. This is just not working. But he gets another encounter, so that's good. So he encounters a keelboat flying the Targos flag. It has a bunch of fishers, and this keelboat kind of pulls up alongside of him, and the captain leans out and is haranguing him. Yeah, hey, what are you doing here? Get off the lake. You're in our waters. And Karl's like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what the rules are. This keelboat captain's like, yeah, turn your rowboat around, get out of here. Karl's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. And he kind of turns around and starts pulling the rowboat back towards Bremen, at least away from that boat. All right, well, Karl's been out here for a couple of hours now. He's cold. He doesn't know anything. He hasn't found any fish for sure. So I think he's just going to kind of paddle around, maybe talk to some other boaters and see what they might know. So yeah, gather information, chit chat with people. 3 misses in a row. This quest might not happen for Karl. I think at this point, he is seriously struggling, can't burn momentum. On a miss, your investigation and reveals a dire threat. All right, you know what? No, we're going to progress this. So a dire threat is a lake monster. I'm going to go ahead and advance the track a little bit on this. The lake monster roars out of the water near him as he's kind of paddling around, trying to get some information from some other boat that he sees way off in the distance. And now there's a roll that we can make for the lake monster's behavior. So this is a D6. The lake monster rams the boat from underneath. The boat takes damage and it rocks and may dump Karl back into the water. This is going to be another face danger with edge to try to keep his balance. finally got a hit, a weak hit. You succeed but face a troubling cost. I think he's a little bit freaked out by the boat being rocked, so he's going to take a hit to his spirit. But on a strong hit, he hardens his resolve. He's like, I'm going to find out what the hell is going on with this lake monster. So he leans over the side and tries to get a look at it, and he's going to call out to it. He thinks that these things may be fairly intelligent. So he leans out. He says, "Hey there, don't rock the boat anymore. I'm not here to harm you." Kind of waving his hands, trying to get its attention. I think this is going to be a compel to try to get some kind of communication started with this creature. So this is going to be a heart. Oh, finally a strong hit. So I'm going to go ahead and mark progress on this because this creature actually comes up out of the water and is now looking at Karl. Karl is looking up. These teeth are just gargantuan, and he's looking at this monster like, oh my gosh, this thing could absolutely just bite my head right off. But he's trying to keep calm and reach out and say, look, I'm not here to harm you. I tried to get some fish for you, but I couldn't find any fish. I'm sorry. The fish were being difficult. Can you take me to your master? Yeah, that seems plausible. I think that I'm going to let that compel roll. I think that the creature, kind of gets the gist of what Karl wants to get from it, but it is beholden to Revison. As written in the module, the Plesiosaurus is awakened and does not want to lose that fact, and is afraid of becoming a normal animal again, and knows that the frost druid Revison can, potentially do that. Now, in reality, the awakened spell is permanent, but the Plesiosaurus doesn't know that. It's definitely serving Revison and deferential to her, so it's not going to lead Karl to her, right? That would fly in the face of its motivation, but it's at least not going to eat Karl, I think, with the successful compel that he got. So Karl's going to kind of look this thing over, and I think he's just going to talk to it some more. So I think this is going to be some more gather information, just kind of looking it over and talking with it. That's a miss, and I can't burn momentum on that. So he doesn't get any more information. Your investigation reveals a dire threat or unwelcome truth. I think the unwelcome truth is the creature doesn't want to parley with Karl, isn't going to tell him where its master is or take him to it or anything. It dives back under the water and disappears. Karl's done as much as he can at this point, so he's going to row back to Bremen and get off, drenched still, quite cold, very unpleasant. That was a very miserable experience for Karl. He really did not enjoy that at all. I think he is going to not go out on the water for a while. So he finds Tali, talks to Tali, explains the situation, and tells Tali the notes that he got, which is not great. So he didn't mark a lot of progress on this quest. This might be our first failed quest. It probably will be. Let's roll it. Okay, weak hit. Weak hit could be worse. I was definitely expecting a total miss. There's more to be done. Yeah, no crap. There's more to be done. I know I got to go and deal with this. Do I want to swear a vow to get more information? I don't think so. I think Karl's done with this water nonsense. I think he's in Bremen trying to find out more from this creature. Didn't get eaten, which is good, but didn't really find out anything. So I think he's done with Bremen. He's just going to stay in the inn tonight and maybe rest up a little bit, head out for Targos tomorrow is the plan. So he heads to the Buried Treasure, which is the sole inn in town owned by Cora. He settles in there, and he's the only guest, so he, kind of doffs his clothes, chit-chats with Cora, gets some warm clothes back on. He's going to settle in for the evening by a nice warm fire, a little mug of hot cocoa, hopefully, and just rest up. And as he's talking to Cora, she seemed kind of sad. He's like, oh, what? Are you okay? What's going on? And Cora tells him that her only son, Horwar, ran away a little bit ago. He had been off in the frosty wastes, got lost trying to find the speaker. Apparently the speaker of Bremen just wanders off sometimes, and so they just have to send search parties to rescue him. So Horwar was in one of these search parties. He got separated, And when he came home, he was acting very strange. And Cora asked him about it. Cora found a little black rock that Horwar was holding on himself all the time and seemed really possessive of. Horwar said, "Never touch this again. This is my thing. If you touch it again, I'll kill you," which is really alarming to Cora. And so there was definitely some family tension there. And then a few days ago, a couple of tieflings showed up and talked to Horwar, and Horwar went off with them. Karl thinks very much about this. I don't think that it seems related to his sister at all. The black rock is a little bit strange. He hasn't heard anything about that, so that's new, and that'll tie into the larger quest. But for now, he's going to rest up and head to Targos. So let's see if he can make camp and get a little bit of health back. Okay, a weak hit. He'll take some spirit on that. He hits the road for Targos. We decided that the trail to Targos is a little bit dangerous, so he is going to undertake a journey. He doesn't have a bond with Bremen. He didn't really stay here very long. He didn't really get on with the people very well. So he's just going to go ahead and roll. But he does have a +1 for his Wayfinder. So that's actually going to be a total of a 6, which gives him a strong hit, which is great. He gets to Targos without misadventure. Karl crosses the frozen wastes on a barely used trail from Bremen to Targos. As you trudge through the town, snow crunching underneath your feet, you hear the bark of a dog over the whistle of the wind. A wolf-sized sled dog with light gray fur runs towards you, dragging a broken leather harness behind it. And we will find out what Karl does with this lost sled dog next time. Thank you for joining.